So I just had this idea. I was watching naval helicopters and how we drop charges into the ocean for submarines to basically monitor them or either attack them. What if we use charges, right, that were designed to sit in the ocean, maybe say 300 meters under so nothing could really run into them, and then have them have a canopy on top? So that way it had a canopy on top that was a fiber resistant material that was made of a propylene base that was able to have a floating edge to it. And at the same time, the central part of it was a solar panel. And underneath it was a sonar device. And so when we drop these, they basically sit on top of the water because they have a chute-like effect, right? And they're constantly mapping the bottom of the ocean as they're moving and creating a Class A map of the ocean surface. That way, we know what the ocean surface underneath the ocean looks like, and we can also monitor underwater routes that people are using with their submersibles. So instead of having to constantly fly over it, it constantly is sending up telemetry to be read through the center of it, and it's powering itself as its own base station so it doesn't look hot underwater. So it's using a low currency and a low voltage, and it's taking the voltage in through solar. Plus, the way that it would sit on the water, even if the waves came, you couldn't flip it over because it would have more of a jellyfish effect, meaning that the edges couldn't fold. It could rock and roll, but even if it flipped, it would still be the same side up. You get what I'm saying? So even if one side flipped or the other side flipped, you would make the density of the solar panel so that way it didn't matter what side the solar panel was on, both sides were solar panels. So even if you had like 30-foot waves and it went up to the crest and it came over and flipped over like that, it's not going to fold in on itself because of the propylene on the edge of it, which will keep it rigid, but it'll be flat enough and smooth enough and light enough that it won't actually want to dip under and then stay underwater. So it will be able to stay afloat without hardly anything to it. So, and because the depth of the charge itself, because you can rig it so that's a 1A, a charge, and then it's also a sonar device. And then you just leave them there. And instead of trying to figure out where everyone's moving, just map the ocean appropriately. And then once you've mapped the ocean appropriately, then you know the best routes to be moving. And then once you know the map routes, then you know the areas to put one of those at in order to put a frequency disturbance in so that nobody else can read the radar in that area or the sonar in that area. And that way nobody can tell if you're using those routes. So you can find the most convenient route for you to use for your submersibles. So that way you're not having any type of interdictions or any type of run-ins with somebody by accident. You know, you don't want something to happen underwater. It's not always the best. It's kind of heavy underneath there. A lot of pressures.